think Jan's supposed to be here, but
You have a form.
she's not. Yeah, we have a form. So,
And Nate asked if he could
yeah,
participate by phone.
should we call him?
Hit the, just dial and then hit the green button. Probably the easiest phone in this building to use.
Verizon, Comcast, or Stratus?
Verizon.
That's John.
If he doesn't answer, I can shoot him a text and tell him to let me know when he's ready that I can call him back.
Okay.
Call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Okay, we'll bring the Park and Shade Tree Commission meeting to order. I guess we'll do a roll call.
Alright, Jen Ryan.
Here.
Jean Seeley. Here. Lucy Cairns. Here. Nate will hopefully be joining us by phone, and I think Jen might be here.
Okay, any public comment? Okay, hearing none. I guess we'll turn it over to you guys. Talk about trees, insects, anything? Any updates?
No, I treated emerald ash borer
Okay.
with that for the season. Lantern flies, I'm seeing some, but there's no treatment needed at this point, not unless there's an outbreak.
Can we remove lanternflies from the agenda?
Yeah, I think we missed that. It was so small.
Okay, yeah, it's just not something we use for anywhere. Anything else? No?
There's no other issues, just dealing with storms.
Yeah. Have we had a lot of trees down? I know there's been some
The last storm
branches.
was just 2 trees that came down, we had a lot of other debris, broken limbs.
Just a cleanup factor after.
There was a cleanup, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
My question is that when I walk around, I notice a lot of invasive vines climbing up through valuable trees. Do you have a program of removal of those?
On the street trees,
No, not street trees, these are in the park.
you have that,
Okay.
that's Dwayne's issue.
Do you just automatically, when you see them, pull them out, or do you have like another day you might dedicate to that kind of work?
Well, we're trying to work on a lot of the invasive stuff out there over all the grounds, and there's an awful lot, and we've been doing kind of the best as we can.
Right.
If we're there or right there, we try to get it, pull them out, cut them off, whatever, to try to keep them from,
Jean and I decided we wanted to go out with blockers, and could we just check with you and say, well, like the redwoods, the dawn redwoods, the porcelain berries starting to crawl up, them from the meadow side. And, who knows, we might get the energy to just, try to, it's not a solution, but, just go in and cut off what
Right,
we
we
can.
are aware of that, I did see it, once we get finished with, we're doing right away mowing and clean up
Yeah.
and remove the trees and things right now. Once we get done with that, there was one area
Okay.
that we were gonna get, we'll plan on getting in there. We'll probably weed whack under everything out past the, there's a drip line of the trees, try to cut that and clean around those, so that was some, cause we did actually trim them a little bit, that were overhanging the trail, because they were getting low, we just took the ends off, so,
Yeah.
they went up like a week or 2 ago, we trimmed those.
Hi Nate, you're here.
Hey there.
Hi.
Thanks for calling me in.
Thanks for joining us.
I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead, Jean.
Have you noticed any reduction in the spread of any of the invasive plants?
Yeah, we did a lot of work, manual, mechanical, and we did some spraying with the poison hemlock. There was in the fields behind the barn. I think we pretty well have that. Looked really good. Some of the areas down the meadow across the Goodman barn, we started on that, and we're working still on that. Probably half the knotweed that was down there. We gotta get it to there again, but it's come a little bit. And the porcelain vine, we were watching that. We've been mowing that periodically to try to get it back, and have been doing a little spot spraying in between to try Conservancy, I noticed we did gain some ground, over there a little bit, but with all the construction, digging and moving, I don't know if we're gonna gain a whole lot till they put the dirt back there, so we're gonna have to kind of watch that. I would almost assume it's gonna get started over once that gets done with it. So,
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed the improvement in the place of hemlock. There are certain stands that were there last year that nothing grew this year. You know, out in the Golden Meadow, along the path that leads up to the bench there, and patch on one side.
right.
Nothing's got.
It seemed to be more
nice.
spotty down through there this year. There's kind of places where it kind of wasn't, or we wouldn't kind of think of it
Yeah.
in that meadow this year. Behind the barn, it was kind of pretty close to the same place, but it was probably half as what it was last year.
Oh, that's fine. Do you see anything else coming up instead, seeding and growing, other than the hemlock?
Some
Or it's
thistle,
just-
but that's, I mean, we can kind of get after that too as well. I was trying to get the more dangerous stuff first.
Sounds like an opportunity to plant in some natives in that bare ground.
Year round.
Yeah,
He said that some of it's receding, and that's what I thought I was hearing, of the poison hemlock.
yeah.
And if it's
So that
receding,
machine
what's
is
there?
closer for the long one.
Okay, I can't.
That could also be something when we get the
When we get the
Parkland study.
report.
I would
Yeah.
assume that's gonna be one of the projects the commission would wanna prioritize that we can move forward with.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any other updates on summer plans, fall plans, what's going on with trees, with the parklands?
I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
We've had we have a lot of meetings going on between council and people bring things to council, goes out and comes back to you guys, trying to figure out who's doing what to whom is somewhat challenging sometimes. There was a discussion which led to the replacement of the tree in the center, the circle, the large tree that you guys put up. And in the process of that discussion was the issue of which are commonly or conveniently known as pork chops, the four things that run on the edges of the circle. And the discussion was about the watering of those areas is labor intensive. And the discussion ensued very shortly at the time we discussed the circle itself, was that the project coming up would be to simply bring the water from the tree, from the circle into the corners, and that would set the stage for planting more colorful flowers and not having to do the hard work of watering them. And I'm trying to figure out, when does that target get hit? And it seemed as though if it doesn't get hit between now and the fall, it won't get hit until next year, because to try to put the watering system in at the same time you're trying to put the flowers in seems to be a little more difficult than if it were done now, and then when the flowers are ready to be planted, just turn the water and they grow.
Ron, as I told you last week, that's on the August infrastructure agenda, cause
Well,
they
I
were the
thought-
ones
Well,
discussing
since
it.
this says what projects are being worked on, I figured if the projects are gonna be worked on, then these guys might be the ones working on it, so maybe to let everybody know what's gonna happen at the next council meeting without asking these guys what could happen. It seems like we got half the people here, tell me what you think, and then we can tell council what they think, and maybe bring everybody into the same room. at the
But
same
that's
time.
under the purview of infrastructure because there's costs associated with it.
I'm not
And
concerned
that
about the
water
cost.
doesn't just pop out of the ground, it's gotta get there.
So I've already added that to the August infrastructure agenda, and Jim and Greg are aware that they need to give an update on it.
All right, so I wasn't sure whether this committee has anything to do with that project. If it doesn't, then summer, fall plans do not include jobs.
Yeah, I think that started in infrastructure and just basically stayed there.
Yes.
We talked about it in infrastructure,
Fine.
yeah, it's never been
Okay.
shot from infrastructure back to us for input. So it started there, it stays there, it's just gonna go up, they don't wanna bring it back down, I guess, or down the road. So yeah, we'll discuss that in August. Anything else you guys have? Any other updates?
The platform, out there in the Parklands, what, that's 90% done?
Yeah, we built a new deck up from Moose Bridge to replace the old one built next to it.
The one the Rotary is paying for.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're paying for it, we're building it, and then they're putting a plaque, have they given us a plaque
No.
update?
I mean, but they are aware of what
The
our
guidelines.
requirements were in terms of size and language, and they were fine with that.
Yeah, the deck itself is finished, we have 2 benches that we have to build to put it on again and be finished. Except for we have to let it sit for a bit so it can dry out so we can stay.
Okay, very cool. That one in.
And then we will remove the old one.
Alright. Any other questions about projects?
Oh, I just have a question. All the huge chunks of cut down trees that were piled up in the little gravel lot across from the car barn there, I saw them being put into it, or at least some of them put into a truck to be hauled somewhere. I was just curious where they're going.
There's all kinds of random people stop to get firewood.
Oh,
We cut and put it there and it's over.
so that would have been a resident, okay. Yeah, it looked like a
Well,
pretty major
Yeah.
operation. They were, anyway, okay.
Yeah, they've been taking, that pile was huge as you probably remember.
Yeah.
They've been taking a lot of wood, and gathering a lot of wood out of there, and it's
Okay.
just, really good, it saves a lot of pay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you advertise that, or is people just sort of swing that?
If they call, if I would tell them where you can get it at, we usually have too much, we're looking to get rid of it.
Nice. Did you have something else?
Yeah, there's also many suffering trees out there in the street trees. And my question is it okay to run out and just prune those off?
No.
I mean, suckers from the ground because of all the rain.
You know, like throughout the parkland,
I've noticed them all over.
On the street trees.
Yeah, on the
Oh,
street
street
trees,
wall,
not the
yeah.
park.
When the street tree is, I won't stop somebody from cutting the suckers off if they wanna do it.
Okay.
We try to go around and get them, but it's
Yeah.
just, we got, we got 7,000, over 7,000 trees, and if somebody wants to cut them off, that's
It's
fine.
okay. Oh.
Yeah,
we do
it's-
something too, if we're there working or close by, we try to, get them around.
I won't yell out.
There are.
You had something else? Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, we can talk about the bird nest spots report.
I wanna give Lucy a ton of credit for putting this report
Did you put that? I was
together.
gonna ask you to put it together.
It's, when she first sent the first draft of this to me, I had a million questions she was kind enough to answer. I just think we've never had this before, to actually see what's going on in those boxes, thanks to her monitoring plan, that's pretty cool.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's been really educational and interesting to do. And, it's just allowed us to identify some of the major challenges to the birds we would like to have using those boxes and start to prioritize some changes, I hope to make in the coming years to the boxes themselves, the posts, possibly the locations. But, just a little bit at a time is all I'm expecting to be able to do. This is so many of the boxes now are not in bad repair. There's not a huge need for repair, but we don't have anybody to tap right now. Go out there with, a hammer and a screwdriver, or take a box down and fix it, other than relying on the maintenance guys. And it would be nice to be able to recruit somebody who could help out with that as needed.
Would that be something the Boy Scouts might be interested in?
Well,
But you want year in, year out,
It
you
would
don't
help.
want to keep recruiting a new group every year.
But that's the Boy Scouts aren't going anywhere, more. So if you have one troop that's dedicated to doing it.
I mean, if we could, like perhaps, perhaps in the spring, before the nesting season begins, do a little inventory, what boxes need what work done. Then there could be a defined, period of time, that a group like that could pitch in and help. So maybe.
I could also talk to, I did reach out to the school district about those 2 rogue boxes.
Yeah.
To the best of their knowledge, they were not part of any type of special project. They don't really know where they came from. So they are agreeable to taking them down, but I could also see if they have a club or school-based group that might be interested in helping. I don't know, is woodshop still a thing?
No, they sold all that equipment, as we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 2010 coming to
Public education. But I can at least talk to the Boy Scouts and see if there would be any interest.
Okay, and then, but might not solve the problem that, during the nesting season, things break and, you just need a quick fix, because there's birds in the boxes. So that would be another aspect to it. And in addition, I think it would be a major improvement if more of the boxes were mounted on pipe, PVC or metal pipes with predator baffles. Because a lot of the issues have to do with cats and raccoons jumping up on the boxes and reaching in, and snakes climbing up and eating all the eggs or the young. And, those wooden posts and poles just don't provide any protection whatsoever. And that would require, occasional work by somebody with more muscle than myself or Jean.
But that might be a good Boy Scout project, replacing.
Well,
Replacing
that's
the
true.
posts, yeah.
That's true. Yeah, if we could get the materials, like in preparation for the next nesting season, just switch over some of the boxes.
Is there a kitty for the Boston materials?
Is there what?
A kitty.
Would we typically pay for that out of?
It'll be parks, materials and supplies.
Yeah.
But the Boy Scouts might get donations.
I did just receive a really detailed description from the woman who's, the Pennsylvania, or the Bluebird Society of Pennsylvania's state coordinator, a very detailed description of exactly how she goes about mounting boxes on the pipes. And she uses, I think a 3-foot length of a metal pipe, hammers it into the ground, and then slots the PVC pipe over that. So that makes it really easy to take moves out the ground.
Are you the only one who knows the location of all of these boxes? Is there anybody else? Do you know where the, there's a
They
map?
have a map
Yeah, there
of
is.
the park with every box
Okay.
and its number.
Alright.
So, okay. Now house sparrows are, they didn't used to be there, but I think those boxes on the school property, I know those boxes have been little house sparrow factories, and these are, a non-native species that they have big, stout beaks that they use to kill little birds and tree swallows, and I found a house wren pecked to death. They beat their heads in if they trap them in the boxes, they kill the young, anyway. They're just doing what they do, what birds do, but they don't belong here, and they are one of the major reasons we don't have more bluebirds. Because a male house sparrow becomes imprinted on a nesting box, and they can live for 10 years. And we've been piercing the eggs every time a house sparrow has laid an egg in one of the boxes this year, just to prevent reproduction. And so that the house sparrows have had virtually no success, but they're still gonna keep coming back to those boxes every year, and they don't migrate. So they don't really go away and forget where their box is.
So we have a feral.
House sparrow issue.
Let's just sing the feral cat song.
So, yeah. But,
Survival
so,
of the fittest.
all that means, and there are, 7 of our boxes where the house sparrows have either been laying eggs all year or fighting with the other birds for those boxes. So that's a lot of our 32 boxes, you know, it's not like one or two. And, so what needs to happen is, you know, a system of trapping and killing the male house sparrow that are imprinted on those boxes. And of course, you know, people who spend their lives taking care of bluebird boxes have all kinds of techniques for doing this. And you can buy traps that you place inside the box, and then you sit there and watch until the male sparrow goes in, and that sparrow trips the trap, and then you take the box, and there's various things, humane methods of then dispatching the house sparrow. There's a number to choose from. Not something I'm going to take on by myself, not something I would do, and in fact, the change in our rules and regs prohibit use of any trap on the Parkland, which I did notice that. But anyway, that's a subject for discussion maybe in the run-up to next year.
Just out of curiosity, if you move the box, say there's a bird that's imprinted on that box you don't want there, if you move the box, will that mess up the imprinting? So if you just move the box to a different location?
It would have to be far away.
What if you replace that box?
The totally
Just
different looking
take
box?
away the wooden box and replace it with a different box.
Oh, that would,
So
no, I think
it's
it's,
the location,
yeah,
not
I
just the
marked
box.
it. Yeah, I think it's the location. It's the box. House wrens now, there's the same woman who's the coordinator for the Bluebird Society of Pennsylvania. She's pretty passionate about discouraging house wrens from using the nest boxes. But house wrens are native birds, and it's illegal to destroy their nests, their eggs, their young. And house wrens are in how many of our boxes? More than a few. I have a, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, house wrens have been building in our boxes. But with that bird versus the bluebird, it's mainly a problem with where the boxes are located, because bluebirds like a box in the middle of an open field. And the house wrens, they want to be where there's shrubbery nearby. And we don't have a lot of we have some open fields in the park, but a lot of the boxes are near hedges or, you know, groups of trees or houses. And I think the house wrens are not a big issue, in my opinion. We might make a few more boxes available to bluebirds by shifting some of the boxes house wrens are using, you know, trying to put them in a better location where the house wrens don't like to be so much. And human interference, I you know, just like to continue to find ways to communicate to the residents, you know, that these boxes are being monitored, that there's ways they can participate in caring for the boxes. But if they're not part of the monitoring system, you know, they should leave the boxes alone and enjoy, you know, watching what the birds are doing from a distance rather than going up and opening the boxes or otherwise interfering. And I thought that maybe there's a couple of the boxes where I think the path that you go to make the boxes accessible, I think some of those paths that used to be dead ends now cut entirely across the field to connect to trails on either side of the field. There might be one or two where you could stop mowing on one side, make them dead ends again. And maybe there'd be less foot traffic right past a couple of the boxes. Yeah, and, you know, I'd like the public to, you know, see our end of the nesting season report. And the nesting season, it's really winding down now. It's not totally over, but by mid-August, there won't be any more to report.
Thank you so much.
If you have volunteers who would replace the blue verticals with PVC pipe in the fall, would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay, just so it's before the nesting season, regardless of whether it's this fall or next spring.
Right.
It'll give them more options.
Yeah.
I'll talk to, I have a meeting with the new superintendent of the school district next week, so I'll see if there are students that need volunteer hours, if that's something they'd be interested in, as well as Boy Scouts.
Didn't you put me in touch with a woman who,
Ran their,
environmental
Yes.
club, and so she and I had some, email back and forth, and, she was certainly willing to ask the members of the club if any of them would have an interest in becoming monitors and helping out for a season, which I would be more than happy to go and speak to that club and train them and so on. So we agreed to get back in touch, like January, because by this year, by the time we would have gone through that process, the nesting season would be half over. But we've made contact, and maybe next year, but it depends on the students' interest. And if there are some of them, that would be a source of help next summer.
Are we also reaching out to Wilson School District?
I can,
Well, they're in the, might as well.
I don't know if they have an EAC or something similar, but I can ask.
I don't know, they've got a lot of clubs that Wyomissing doesn't have, so they're not.
That's a good idea.
Do you have anything on like what the materials are that they use to put in the ground and the PVC to go over?
Yes.
And is there any close by that can do that, that you know of?
I have not seen that style of mounting these boxes. I have not seen that.
Do you know whether she has a video of it?
In fact, she did offer me a video. Oh, no, that was a video for, once you have a pipe, of course, you're not gonna screw the box to a PVC pipe. So there's also there's a way to attach the box to the pipe that actually makes it very easy to remove the box, if you need it repaired or something, you put it back, unlike screwing and unscrewing. That's what
Is
she
that,
offered me a video.
Lucy, is that something like a hose clamp or something like that, maybe?
I got that message last night, and I
Oh, okay,
haven't,
this is
yeah.
fresh.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it.
Do you mind forwarding that to me when you have a minute, and I can make sure?
Oh, yeah, yep, everything she gave me about the, what materials that I bought and how she goes about it, sure. And I'll ask, this, coordinator, she said she lives near Phoenixville or not too far from Berks County. So she may be familiar with more of the bluebird trails in this area. So I can ask her if she knows of any close to us that have the PVC pipe mounting system that we could look at. Yeah, I can get all that info to you. Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you. Are there any other questions about this? No, okay. Recap of the 26 walking tour? Is there anything we wanna discuss again? I mean, we don't have the report yet.
No, I should have a draft, I
And-
would expect in the next week or two, because the final version is due by the end of August.
Okay. Will the draft get sent to us as well and sort of glanced over, or are we waiting for just the final?
I can distribute it to you once I get it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything, we discussed it in the last meeting. I'm waiting for the report. I'm not sure there's a lot we wanna jump ahead with until this report shows up.
Yeah.
To really get a better overview of everything that's going on.
I would just comment that on that walk, I learned a lot about stormwater management and
Yeah.
about all the opportunities in the Parkland for making things a little better. I had no idea. Yeah, that was very educational for me.
Absolutely. Okay, number 7, the wildflower area. So there's 2 requests by 2 different people, I believe, in 2 different areas.
I was not asked to put the one at the area adjacent to the pool on the agenda, but I was asked to
Okay.
put the one at the Old Mill parking lot and the park barn on the agenda.
Okay. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's too late in the season. I mean, I believe it's too late in the season to be trying to source out and prep and plant the seeds.
Well, did these
And-
people, did they submit a detailed?
No, people I think are just requesting wildflower areas. There was, you are familiar, there was a wildflower area somewhere.
Yeah, been around here for a long time. But over on Old Mill Road, Old Wyomissing Road, if you go past, where Don Center lives, behind the Wyomissing Foundation building, that's the entrance to Old Wyomissing Road. If you look to your right, you'll see on the opposite end of the roadway, a path that people park at and walk down that path. You familiar with where we are now?
It's,
The
it's basically where we met for the walking tour,
Yeah.
where we went in that
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
If you start the parking lot,
Yeah.
there's sort of an island. If you take the gravel path, there is a big
An area.
area which is surrounded by other paths. And in that island, there was a lot of wildflowers a couple years ago, which were beautiful.
Yeah, it goes back a long time.
Okay.
Apparently, there was some gnome that worked for Jim, I guess, that had wildflower seeds, that during the course of his job, or outside his job, would just throw wildflower seeds in there.
Yeah.
At the start, it's kind of a marshland. It might not be officially identified as marshland, but I can tell you from running and walking that area across the way, rather than go around, you get awfully wet.
Yes,
Doesn't matter
I know
what
what you're
time of
talking
year
about.
it is.
Yeah.
So it looked like it was, I'm not a horticulturist, but it seemed to me that every year, these wildflowers would grow. And I never saw a crew in there or anything, so they grew constantly until one day the gnome left and the wildflowers died.
Ron, I don't recall ever doing anything there. Somebody did it on their own, so be it. But it could be just from mowing practices and nothing being planted, that wildflowers grow up. Kind of Dwayne knows a lot about that, when to mow, to encourage things that are flowering natively without ever seed being cast.
That's certainly possible, Jim, but I don't think that was right, because you see a whole lot of different flowers when you
Okay.
walk around, and that group
I just
was
don't
not,
recall
it was
that.
more than
What did it when
I
Kevin?
see there. So it looked
I
like it was
think I
lacking
remember
or
something,
something.
but I don't.
Well, it was kind of a chicken and the egg, because it was so gorgeous that nobody cut it. So then it kept growing.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
what
can see
happened.
Kevin doing that.
Well, it's self-seeded then.
Yeah, it's sort of self-seeded, but somebody was coming in after dark and doing it again every year. So it seemed like something that was happening, and I never saw a whole crew of people walking around, putting a hole in the ground, putting the seed in. It was kind of wildflowers. So it seemed as though, when I first mentioned this was a simple item to discuss. But it sounds like it gets very complicated without whether that makes any sense or what.
Well, it's still a simple item to discuss, Ron. It's just a matter of, I don't wanna, the committee to jump ahead and do anything until we get this report. And I know the report isn't, but this report is gonna talk about the water and the floodplains and this, that, and the other. And by looking at the report, we can find the best locations to add wildflower lots, and there's probably several of them. I mean, the goal is to bring in more natives, more
Pollinators.
wildflowers, more pollinators, get rid of these invasive plants. That's the long-term goal of the whole process. But I don't wanna go and then the other thing is these seeds have to be vetted. We have to be getting the appropriate seeds that are purely
Yes.
native. You can buy, wildflower seeds that are full of invasives,
Yep.
anywhere.
Yeah, you need somebody like Mike Slater to,
Or Nathan.
or
Yeah,
Nathan.
yeah, Nathan.
Yep, I was just at Union Meadows West, where Mike and some of his naturalist friends put in a 3-acre wildflower meadow in a wet spot.
Yeah.
In 2020. It hasn't been mowed since, and it's still just, it's had very little invasion by undesirable plants. They've done a little bit of
And
maintenance.
yeah.
But anyway, you have to know what you're doing, that's
Yeah,
all.
we
You
have
need
to know what we're
somebody
doing.
that-
We've gotta find the
Not
right
just a
spot.
random resident saying, I'd like to go
Right.
spread wildflower seeds.
The Army Corps does that at Blue Marsh, and They do a mix of sunflowers, they move the fields every year, and then they do wildflowers, and it's on my other phone. I actually took a picture of it for the purpose of this discussion. I just forgot to send it to my work phone. It's beautiful, and same thing, like no maintenance, they don't mow it, and it's just a really nice pop of color at different spots around the lake.
So yeah, I think once this report comes in and we look at it over, we can more easily identify the locations where Ron's suggesting is probably a very good one, knowing that it worked in the past.
Right.
And that can be discussed and approved by our committee and sent up the chain before the spring easily, so that come spring, you know, we can get those seeds thrown out the ground.
Should we then respond to the folks who asked about this, just saying, here's the sort of project we're looking for?
Well, Oldville is this one right here, Ron, so we're telling Ron right now, Ron, we can make this happen. I believe it can happen.
As far as I'm concerned, with all the technical jargon that's going on, what color flower and where it comes from, that's great. As far as the area, if you're not cutting it, and you can grow something that grows, and it's good, and it's not gonna eat an animal, or an animal is gonna eat it, go for it, because it can't do anything but beautify the parkland more than it already is.
But some things can feed our native
Yeah, I
pollinators
mean,
more than other things.
I mean, there's a lot of seed mixes that, you know, the Pennsylvania DOT is kind of getting in, or the Turnpike Commission is getting in trouble because they've been using these wildflower seed mixes that are introducing invasive species into natural areas and parklands, that sort of thing. So there really can be issue if we're putting out the wrong mixes and not vetting the species and telling people, oh, well, it's a flower, so it's good. We're potentially going against what's going to come out of the recommendations of this report, or, you know, threatening the meadow areas, or especially like the sensitive riparian areas that are going to mitigate the stormwater and all of these, you know, interconnected systems. You know, I have to say I disagree that it's just, you know, we want something, you know, pretty, or, you know, we want some red flowers, so let's put out red flowers. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that, and I think, so one, going slow, but also, I mean, I need to chime in that, you know, if we're actually talking about doing a seeded meadow installation, the fall is actually the better time to do that in a lot of cases, unless you can get in the early spring, because often the ground is too wet. Because if you're doing a native seeded meadow, a lot of the seeds need the cold stratification of the winter to germinate. So I don't think I think if the vetting and the back and forth needs to happen, this can happen in the spring, but, you know, if we're able to, you know, get an understanding of what people are going to try and put out, there's, you know, no reason that it couldn't happen in the fall for, like, you know, horticultural practical reasons, if it is going to be seeded. But yeah, I mean, I'm with, I think it's Jen who's been talking. It's a little hard to tell that, you know, we just need to make sure what is going out there is actually going to, you know, align with the goals for the parkland moving forward, and not going to be something that's going to create a nuisance for the maintenance staff to have to deal with as it, you know, proliferates or whatever.
When you want to plant seed, do you just mow what's there and cast it, or is there soil preparation?
There's no soil preparation that you can mow and try and seed, but generally it's better to do multiple, like, successive herbicide applications. Otherwise, the plant, like, if you're just mowing stuff, the plants that are already there are gonna outcompete the new seedlings that you're trying to get to germinate. And like, best practice is that there's a mowing regimen for the first year to, even if you're doing the herbicide applications, to make sure that those see this desirable plants that you have out there, are able to, get established and not get outcompeted by annual weeds or like other invasive species. It seems like Larry's gonna include some of this stuff in the report, but, generally when people throw out a wildflower mix, it's a lot of, non-native, annuals and that sort of thing that are able to kind of put out some blooms and then die out, without, or you're getting that kind of showy effect, but without the ecological services and, other, potential issues that come from those species. But, to really prep and prepare a native wildflower meadow, there is some planning that goes into it, and generally some first year maintenance that needs to happen. And I would imagine that is gonna be especially important, especially around Old Mill, where, we do have a lot of invasive species pressure, to contend with, just putting out the seeds. Some things might take, but, if we're really trying to transition an area into a, larger scale native wildflower area, it is gonna take some monitoring and care and ton mowing and that sort of stuff.
There's no reason we couldn't make our own wildflower mixes.
Yeah,
Just pick the
I
flowers that
heard
we wanted
the really good company for sourcing like PA ecotype native wildflower seeds. But yeah, I think it comes down to the mix and, how big of an area we wanna do. And,
Are we going for an area where, the only thing that you could do in the area that I'm talking about is get really wet and basically walk through a lot of flies or whatever else is in there because it's just wet and yucky. So if the wet and yucky turned into something really pretty, is there some way where you can, find each particular bloom you're looking for in an area you're trying to create sort of a mini Longwood garden somewhere, and then you have the area where you've got this plot across from Old Wyomissing Road that's just yuck, and you just throw seeds there without having to do a test and a study and all the other stuff. Can we just do this somewhere and then plan Longwood Gardens, our version, somewhere else?
We're not trying to play along with gardens, but we can just throw seed there, we can mow and throw seed, but what's there is gonna be stronger than the flowers that are gonna come through. And, well, but if we throw seeds, we can try and throw seeds, but what is already there that we've mowed down will probably overtake the seeds that we would throw. And we can put some pretty flowers there, but some of them are completely useless to the local wildlife. They're useless to our pollinators and our birds and just our environment in general. It goes down the line. So you want stuff that's pretty, but also beneficial.
There's a lot of great native flowering wetland species that would thrive in a yucky wet area, blooms all year. Again, it just comes down to like planning what mix is gonna get put out there so that it actually succeeds.
So that it thrives. And so how many times do you think you have to mow and spray before you can plant?
Again, we could just mow and put stuff out, when for seeded meadows that I've been involved with and I've done, it's, generally we're gonna do 2 herbicide applications, 2 to 3, I'm doing an 1.5 acre installation now that we did 1 in the spring with a broadleaf selective and then 2 non-selective applications in August and September, and we're seeding the end of September, which generally works. Again, we can't do it in the spring, as long as we're getting seed out before the end of April. And you know, we can we can try it without doing the herbicide application if we want, but, you know, again, that's gonna be more important that we're considering the species that are actually going out there. We're just, you know, to, you know, make sure that that you know, has the best chance of competing with the things that are already in the other herbaceous plants and grasses that are gonna be out there.
Right.
Could we also include some native grasses to give it a more natural look and carry the season into the fall?
I would say, I mean, I definitely, I mean, if you're looking for a native, you know, minimum for wildlife habitat creation should be a 40% grass to flower mix. And for a wet area, that's probably going to want to be a little bit higher. Yeah, so that.
How late in the
Yeah.
season could we drop seeds, Nate, do you think? If we, just curious, like, can we throw seeds out in January?
I wouldn't throw them out. I don't know. I mean, best practice.
We throw them like November, late November?
Yeah, usually to be considered the beginning of November. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's following like EMPs. I'm not familiar with anyone who's doing it later than that, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Could we, if Nate sounds very knowledgeable on this, could you go to Ernst and get pricing or availability on a seed mix that would do well there, and sometime in November we could cut it and seed it and see what happens? And go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely. They have, yeah. I can follow up with them. A rep that. I've got a rep that I could touch base with about that, just to get like some pricing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we could get pricing, and if there was time in the schedule between now and November to possibly seed.
I'd estimate that to be 2-3 acres, maybe, something like that, that area.
Mow it, try and spread it.
Oh, we're talking about doing the whole acre, not just like a little test
So-
section or something.
Well, we could do it, or we could do a test section.
Okay. No, I mean, well, I mean, I guess it could come back to timing and pricing and that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm all for giving it a shot if we want to. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I make just one?
Yeah.
This is like complete departure from what we're talking about, but I love this idea that it was residents that are coming to us, and here we are sitting, flexing it out. So they come with volunteers as well.
You can volunteer to help spread those seeds around?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right.
And the other
Watch the
thing
guy do
is-
it, I can do it.
The other thing is that I think it's an opportunity for us to do a public interest article in the Reading Eagle. And, you know, what we're doing, we're creating this beautiful wildflower butterfly garden in Wyomissing. And this is how we're doing it. And we're doing it through volunteers of the community. And by the way, we're also asking for additional volunteers.
Yeah. I think we need to, and I keep going back to it, get this study so that we know how, and then as a commission, we can break down where we think volunteers would be helpful, and then bring it to you guys and say, is this something that the volunteers can take a hold of and do that's not interfering with your work, yada, 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 and sauce all that out. Then we get all our ducks in a row and go to the public and say, we need help with this, we need help with that. Sound good?
Yeah,
So
I think that.
go ahead, Nate.
Oh no, I was just
Okay.
giving a thumbs up to what was just said.
We do have two motions.
Table them for now.
Yeah, I think the thought would be to table them. But then if we're tabling them, that's till September,
Can we
and
make
then
a
if we
motion to
table-
approve the concept dependent on?
Well, I was gonna say, if Nate can get pricing between now and the September meeting, I think we could still talk about it at September, have the motion to approve, and then that buys you time until the beginning of November, we could still potentially do it.
this would have to go up to council though as well, right?
Yes, but I
Which
mean,
is,
Can
what,
I
should
hold
be-
there for a second?
Depending on the price.
Depending on-
Michelle has discretion up to what, 10,000?
actually it's like 21, I think.
Right, you know.
Okay.
We
Jim-
really need council approval to
No,
paint
I
wild.
have no idea, I'm still learning. Okay, all right. So I make a motion that we table, I lost my agenda, that we table the wildflower area in the vicinity of Old Mill parking lot near the pool.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Delayed.
Did you say aye, Nate?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And then I'm also going to make a motion to table adding wildflowers to the meadow area behind the Parks barn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll table them and try and get information and talk about it in September.
So just to clarify, the one that was brought forward by the just citizen group and not Rob, do we know anything about what their
The Parks barn
goal was, or that wasn't
Yeah,
on the
that's
agenda,
actually the
so we're
one by
not.
the swimming pool.
by the pool.
So
Okay.
the staging area that NTEC's currently using for the sewer project, there's a group of residents that approached Steve Berner about doing a wildflower planting there.
About to do a wildflower.
And now
planting there, too.
there's, I'm not as knowledgeable here, but there'd be virgin topsoil there when they
Right.
pull out of there. And if it's better to plant them in topsoil,
But when are they?
there'd be no competition there.
Yeah.
because it would-
Right.
I mean, it would be way better we would have a much easier time seeding into cleared soil, I mean, versus if we're just gonna mow, I mean, cause if it is gonna be until like November. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'll say is that like if we're choosing between doing one or the other this fall, and we know when the construction's gonna be wrapped up and that's gonna be regraded, it would be much easier if we put out,
Not by then.
Yeah, this construction's not gonna be done in
as
the
Pete
fall.
makes
No.
clear. Okay, yeah, but
That's not done till next year, right?
Yeah, by the time
having
that's
that
cleaned
level
up
of
next
prep
year.
They
ground,
haven't
the bare ground would be ideal for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not gonna be available to work on though, Nate, until next year.
Okay, gotcha.
Good.
The only thing that I can say, that area that they dug up was the worst for the porcelain.
Yeah, and
And when they spread that dirt back out, that stuff is gonna come back.
Exactly, all
Yeah.
the seats are already.
Yeah.
I have to get that taken care of, I would try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would need probably a couple of applications and cover cropping.
yeah.
Could we make
To be up
application?
there, yeah.
Topsoil?
Okay.
It has to come up to be able to provide, to be able to,
So you gotta let it seed, come up, spray it.
And is that
It's
far?
Yeah.
probably gonna take several applications.
Yeah.
so It's gonna be, I mean, it's the way I look at it, so
Yeah.
if they do that, it's gonna be a whole year, cause like Hank said, you have to apply 2 to 3 times through the summer to get to your point where you need to be to get your ground, so you can put your seed in a full.
Yeah.
It's not something that's just kind of, it's a, I don't know, so,
And that's
especially because it's so bad.
Yeah, there for sure. I mean, maybe we could try and do a test spot with the mowing over on the marshier
But
side.
to try to over by the parking lot, that
Yeah.
small triangle area,
Yeah, try and do something there and see how that takes without spraying and all that.
I think that would be more than
Okay.
Is there any threat to the stream with the chemicals, using chemicals that they could somehow, if a rain came, wash into the stream?
Well, you have to watch the weather, like plan everything, it's a whole thing to application.
There's a whole licensing program they have to go through by the state to be able to be an herbicide applicator.
Second on some of these classes. Yeah.
It's not an easy test.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I mean,
Alright, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say when applied correctly, you know, they are generally, you know, considered very, very safe. So that, yeah, and that's what the licensing is about, making sure that happens.
Okay, we're gonna jump on to 8 if there's something else, which is split rail fence.
It's a recurring theme in my life to
It
bring back
is.
the artistic things that Wyomissing had 50 years ago that somehow disappeared for one reason or another. Turns out the reasons have been articulated as being significant as opposed to my thinking they just disappeared. The one being where the Beatty property was, if you're familiar with that particular location. It's on Old Wyomissing Road. The house is no longer there. It's about 100 yards down from what's across from Boyce Karim's house in that area. There's a driveway there. You wonder where that comes from. There was a house there as well at some point. And maybe 20 yards up from that, or between that point and 20 yards up, there's a lot of foliage there. And then there was a section, as I recall, maybe 20, 30 feet, 40 feet, that was a split rail fence. And it was on the edge of the creek. I know it well because all of my kids took pictures there, Christmas and, nice days where you could take a really good picture in the fall, and you had the stone house in the background, and really nice. It disappeared one day. As the theory would have it, a storm took it away, or whatever happened, or the storm took everything away, and the cleanup process, that split rail fence disappeared. It's kind of sad because you couldn't get pictures there, whether you were old or young. There wasn't a whole lot of people sneaking through to swim in the creek. There never is, or is up to this point. I mentioned, because I was a Boy Scout, and we now seem to have tried to corral the Boy Scouts into a corral of people that we could put to work all over the borough and this thing. But I went to an Eagle Scout guy. It's a very difficult process to get them to do an Eagle Scout project. And they jumped at the chance to put this split rail fence in. Unbeknownst to me, it's a floodplain, whatever that is. I don't remember being flooded out when I lived over there, but occasionally I guess water comes in, and floods across, and snow comes in. It's also a private road too, or maybe not private, but it's not a public road. So there's not a whole lot of traffic there for anybody that wants to actually get their car in and out if it's snowing or whatever. So it's really not it's not the Schuylkill Expressway. It's really pretty basic. They said that they'd be more than happy to put the split rail fence in, and that's where we got stuck because of the floodplain, which in my simple brain, water goes under a split rail fence, through it, go over the top. The worst thing could happen, it could fall over and you put it back up again. So I'm sort of in favor of either finding out, technically speaking, how many floodplain issues will we have in the next 10 years so we don't have to spend $3,000 in putting that fence up, or find out that they come every 10, 15 years, so it's not a really big cost. But the beautification of the area that you're trying to beautify would be in addition, and for those folks that you're trying to make happy, which is not everybody, but some of them will see that fence and say, boy, that's gorgeous, they put the fence back. So I'm not into a whole lot of studies and all that stuff. I just want to see if somebody can put this fence up. And you guys seem to be loving and caring to what goes on in that area. Those are some of the things that were there. They look really cute and nice. So that's my speech.
I've seen those photos, I think at the Highlands, there's like every season of the year, a photo taken that includes that rail fence and the sycamore and the creek, and, yeah, it's beautiful. So
Looks
But
like a,
these guys probably know what happens after the creek rises up out of its bed. Has that been an issue with that fence?
That's where most of it went when we had the big flood, it was all down, stuck on the bridge, all over.
And that's,
Remember on our walking tour, they recommended we not replace it.
so that's why FEMA floodplain regulations say you, not only if you're constructing, you have to be elevated so many feet off the ground. It's not just, okay, so a flood comes and it washes out, that debris then gets stuck in the creek, dams up, and creates an issue. That's why they don't want you building things in the floodplain.
Might there be something else that would beautify that spot? Maybe not a split rail fence, but series of boulders, you know, or people could sit on the.
That's worse.
Is it really?
I mean, FEMA floodplain regulations basically say you should not be putting anything in the floodplain. Like, one of the things that comes up in our permitting program is a warning. If somebody's applying for a permit and their property's in the floodplain, there's a warning that comes up in the program, you're in a floodplain. So it's like an extra notification to the person approving that permit. There's extra steps and regulations you need to look at here.
Well, I would just argue, because I like to argue, there's also a drop off from the edge of that creek into the creek.
Right.
So, the other thing we always do around here is worry about safety and all this stuff. Apparently, if the split rail fence falls in the water and comes out 2 days later after the storm is over, we really don't want to have that happen, because that would be really dangerous to the water that the fence that's there. But if someone's gonna fall into that creek, it seems like we're gonna have a whole lot of liability there, because nobody puts a creek there without putting some kind of a fence there, or say, do not go into creek or something. So there's issues that are issues because it sounds like a good issue, and yeah, okay, there could be a flood there someday. I don't think anybody from PennDOT or somewhere is gonna come down here and find us for putting 12 feet of split rail fence there that has looked pretty for 100 years. But if we wanna make sure we don't drink and drive and put fences up without worrying about the kids, let's look at the kids. What kind of fence we wanna put there so that nobody falls in? Because we'll be liable because we didn't put a fence in.
Well, when you talk about the drop off of the creek, that's part of the issue with the Parklands in general. Like, that drop off is the bank, the creek bank is wearing away, and that's gotta be repaired. So, in theory, in the long run, the plants will be planted to protect the bank of the stream, to keep it from washing away in these storms. And so you'll have a soft slope into the creek, and that drop off won't be there in the long run. So the goal would be to put plantings or repairing buffer along the edge of the creek, which will protect, which will stabilize the dam, the side of the creek. It's gonna shade the water to protect the fish and keep the oxygen and nitrogen levels. Like, the fence is, as pretty as it is, it's not benefiting the Parklands. We can take pictures there, but it's not doing anything beneficial, and it is in a floodplain, which, you know, if there's another spot you wanna put a fence that we can find that's not in a floodplain, but it just seems like there's nothing other than Christmas photos that it's.
Well, it seems like if the split rail fence is gonna disappear, then all the foliage that you wanna put there, that has all the oxygen and all the other stuff that's gonna add to the wealth of things we're putting in there, that's gonna disappear about faster than the split rail fence. When that water comes running down that creek has been up to the part where it comes over the top, and you can actually walk down there, and you're up to your hips in water there. So the idea that somehow we're protecting something from something else is exactly what I'm here to discuss, because we're protecting something that may not occur for another 50 years, and we're making a big deal out of it when we look at those pictures that people admire and say, boy, that's really nice, I wonder why we don't have those anymore. Well, because in 23 hours and 52 minutes after 20 years of no flood, we're gonna have another flood, and that's why we didn't put it back, because
Well, I think the way a riparian buffer works is that it is able to withstand what you're saying it's not gonna be able to withstand. The way that fence on a drop off of a steep bank is not engineered or designed to withstand that flood event, I think is the issue here. They're not just, you're equating the things as they're both gonna get washed out, but a riparian buffer is an engineered system that does not get washed out.
And the
And
riparian
downstream.
buffer is the plants that I'm speaking of,
Yeah.
yeah. So they will protect the banks of the stream, they'll help keep people from falling in, and they'll withstand floods the way that a split rail fence will not.
And that will be a combination of trees and shrubs,
Yes,
maybe grasses.
that's all gonna go into a 7-foot area between the road and the water. It's like 8 feet. What could you possibly plant there that's going to not
we plant
obstruct
sycamore trees that are
Yeah, but you don't
50
wanna,
feet tall in a 4-foot wide strip.
but you're not trying to hide the creek. You're
No,
just
we're
trying
trying to
to,
protect the creek.
well, there's nothing wrong with it now.
The
bank is eroding.
The bank is eroding, so
Well, like
Shouldn't we
I
also
said,
just
I have
wait
plenty of
till
memories.
reports
That's
Yeah.
fine. I'm good.
we can, let's table this until the official report comes in, and it'll give us more information on the banks. I make a motion to table.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So Eagle Scout projects is our next topic, which I think right now isn't going to be the split rail fence in the immediate future. But I don't know, Ron, if you wanna talk to this Eagle Scout about working on redoing the bird box posts as a possible this fall, instead of building a fence. All these bird box posts that we were talking about earlier, that are all wood, that are allowing all the predators to get up there, maybe that's a project we could put this Eagle Scout on, is
Well, there was-
replacing them with
There was
PVC.
another option, from the other day, which is the gazebo
Oh, the gazebo as well, yeah,
at the Stone House. That has seen better days.
that needs work too, yeah.
I was there, taking at 12, so it needs work. The Eagle Scout projects are pretty technical from planning to execution, so I don't wanna make bird boxes look like a little project, but if it's a big bird box, it might be more acceptable to them than a little bird box. But
Well, there's
gazebo-
32 of them, and they have to hit very specific specs, and there's a lot of details that go into it.
Well, I'd be happy to talk to them and give
Yeah.
them both possibilities.
That would be
And throw
great.
it back at you, Jen, and then you can run with it and see what they can do while they're waiting for the flood.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, I mean, does anybody else have any suggestions for the Eagle Scout projects? I think those two are, the gazebo, which was brought up, and the other day, I think it
As a
infrastructure.
structure.
Yeah, and then the bird box upgrades, I think are two viable options for the Eagle Scout while we sauce out this split rail fence. Anybody have anything else on that? Hearing none. Park and Shade Tree Commission vacancies. I did not send that to you guys, did you?
No,
Did I?
we
I
didn't.
forgot.
Okay.
Got to email myself. So
So
did you, put it on the website? Okay. So I went on the website, and via the website, Mary Ann had shared it to some Hills residents. I got one response, but it was just like, I wanna be on the commission. So I know him, so I gotta get back to him and be like, I would like a letter of intent, give me some information, so that we can take it to the commission, to look over the course of the next month or so. Other than that, I have not gotten anything, I will send it, but it is on the website as well. send info, to members. And then if you have anybody that you know, if you wanna share this with them, they can email me, but as of right now, I have one. Is this something Randy can share on social media, if I like put it together for him?
Yeah.
Okay, I will do that too, that was my other thing. Okay. So yes, if you know anybody, please let them send me an email, letter of intent, the website does have the details, but I will get that out to you guys. Chapter 16, Park and Rec Borough Code. Did everybody get a chance to look that over?
The one related that you sent with the like swimming ordinance
Yes.
and all that. Yeah.
Yes, did you guys get a chance to look over this? Does anybody have any questions or concerns as to what's been removed or
I think-
altered?
I thought at our last meeting, Michelle was gonna ask the police department whether there was utility in being able to go to people and say, I'm sorry, you have to leave this park's closed.
So, they don't, there's equal concerns about what are you doing in the parklands after dark versus, depending on the time of the year, people recreate when it's dark out, because it gets dark at 5 p.m. There did not seem to be a position one way or another against allowing or disallowing. And this version has been reviewed by the rec director and the pool committee specifically for the swimming pool regulations.
Yeah, I mean, I had two concerns. One was the prohibition against any trapping, period. If we're gonna need to do something with the house sparrows, either we have to trap them, get rid of them, or we've gotta take down all the nest boxes in that whole part of the park.
Keep in mind, we're exempt from these are for the general public,
Okay.
so not
The
for
borough
us.
itself.
It's our property, we could do that if we wanted to.
Okay.
But you couldn't do it without my permission.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I should say,
That's
the
all.
borough's permission, not mine specifically.
Well,
So does this one have the hours, the dusk
think
to
that was
dawn,
taken
or
out.
did
It's
we remove
completely
that?
repealed,
It's, okay, that's what I put.
that's why you can't find it.
I think I
Okay.
read mine.
Okay. And we're good with that? I'm good with that.
and I guess, I mean, my other concern was just the enforcement. I don't see how the heck, any of this is gonna be enforced.
It's like the version that's in place now, which it's either, we see things when we're out there and we bring them to people's attention, or depending on how serious the regulation is that's being violated, somebody calls the police department.
Yeah.
It's like anything else, regulations are great, but yes, enforcement is the reality.
And, I mean, there might be more, people might be more compliant if they were more aware of what the regulations are.
You can put a QR code in
But
the
you
kiosk
You've
that
got
leads
signs
you right
saying
to
don't
this
do
section
X, Y,
of the
Z, or do it,
ordinance.
so, I mean.
Yeah.
You have a sign that says do not enter and people walk right around it.
Yeah.
So it's- ignorance is not that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we were just trying to get rid of the really unnecessary stuff.
No swearing.
No swearing.
Yeah.
No going anywhere near the water, yada, yada,
I'd like to throw my 2 cents in.
Sure.
Sign lady here,
yada.
that just mentioned enforcement. I think we had a prior, individual that worked in our rec department. And, when he took the job, we had a few little other things we wanted him to do, which overwhelmed him to the point where he said, I can't do all those other things. It was just a part-time rec job. And this is still a part-time rec job, unless we want to turn it into a full-time rec job. And I think what those things are meant to do is be enforced. So at some point, when we're all gone and somebody says, you have an ordinance that says parks director is supposed to do this. Well, there's a lot of work to doing all this stuff. And don't swear in Parkland. Well, what do? Drive around there during the day to see if anybody's swearing and then throw them off the parkland.
That's why we got rid of that.
You can no much.
The park director is not in charge of enforcing all this. The park director is, if you want to bypass one of these things for a specific reason, like the Boy Scouts camping overnight in the Parklands before the trout run, is that what it is? Then they have to get permission from the park director. The park, or the rec director, you know, whichever.
There's something in here that they're excluded from the park, there's a process which includes the rec director.
which
That's-
is that part that I have.
Right.
But it's not,
It's, yeah, they're
this is
not,
not day-to-day stuff for rec director.
no, this is,
I think we've really only, the primary section of this we've ever enforced is the swimming pool section, when we've had people show up under the influence to the pool. That's when we really had to use that enforcement section.
No, I understand.
I know what you're saying. Okay, no, I'm thinking of something.
so, if we are good with this, what are we doing? We're not doing anything. Review, discuss.
Not for now, because the timing of when I got it with the agenda going out, didn't know where the discussion was gonna go, so we can keep it on the
That's
agenda
fine.
for the September meeting. And
Okay.
then motion to move it to council to approve the changes.
Okay. Does anybody have any issue with that? Like, I think it's fine the way, as written now, so we're all good with it.
Okay.
So we'll just add it next month and approve it. Okay. If there's nothing else, then I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for jumping on.